When asked, rather, about tax policy during the first presidential debate, President Biden and former President Trump mostly argued about Trump's 2017 tax cuts. Here's what they had to say.
The tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID and even after COVID.
That $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system.
So what do we need to know about each candidate's tax policies? We've got Daniel Geltrude, founder of Geltrude Company, here with us. Dan, good to see you. Thanks so much for hopping on. So from what we could decipher about what either of the tax agendas would be, what do you make of it, and what should the American people actually take away from the debate on the topic of tax?
Well, we didn't get a lot from the debate last night. Most of what we know about potential tax proposals really relates to what they've said outside of the debate. As you just said, there wasn't a lot of detail there, but I could tell you where I think each of them are lining up. Now, let's start with this because it's an important point, Brad, is that unless whoever wins the presidency is going to have both houses of Congress, it is very unlikely that there are going to be tax changes because you're going to have gridlock, especially over a topic like taxes, which becomes very sensitive. Now, what will happen, again, as you just talked about, is the Trump tax cuts will sunset at the end of 2025. So if nothing happens in terms of new legislation with taxes, we are going to go back to what the tax laws were for individuals, that is, of what it was in 2016. So we're just going to go back from where we started 8 years ago. Now, the big picture here is that Trump is talking about more tax cuts, specifically that he wants to make the individual tax cuts permanent from back in 2017. He's looking to, once again, cut potentially corporate income tax. He said that he does not want to tax tips from those who work in service industries. I also think you're going to see Donald Trump do some defunding potentially of the IRS, which came about from the Inflation Reduction Act. You know, there was a lot of talk about all these auditors. I think Donald Trump may very well make a move to undo that funding. And I also think we could see some cuts in capital gains tax. Biden, on the other hand, probably is going to propose the exact opposite. He's talked about more taxes on the wealthy, so you would see individual tax rates going up. You're going to definitely see a proposal to change the corporate income tax because he said many times corporations don't pay their fair share. We could see some changes on capital gains tax rate. We could see a wealth tax on billionaires. So there's a lot in play. But again, nothing happens unless you have both houses of Congress.
Yeah, that's a key reminder here, and it certainly does come down to some of the other down ballot voting, as you were mentioning as well, for those offices, particularly, Dan, as we think about some of the tax credits that have been allowed. I mean, there's been everything from EV tax credits to child tax credits for households that are trying to wrap their minds around what may change, what may get taken off the table and have a significant impact to their own personal economy, if you will. What is the signal, and what are some of the larger items that could roll off that reframe that household financial balance, if you will?
Well, what I think happens there as far as any tax credits that you brought up is that with EVs, I do not see Donald Trump putting any tax credits out there related to EVs. And, you know, as he alluded to, he does want clean water and clean air, but he is not talking about really having any type of major climate initiatives where Joe Biden is really the exact opposite. So I think we could see a lot more going on related to credits for the environment. Now, as far as what would happen with families, they both may align very well related to having child care tax credits because there's a lot of voters that matters for. But keep in mind, no matter who wins this election, right, they're going to be a one-termer, or it's just going to be the next 4 years. So that does give them flexibility to not have to worry about re-election. So they'll probably push really hard to make changes. What will pull them back, and it could even come from their own political parties in Congress, is those in Congress that have to worry about re-election are going to be very, very sensitive to voters' pocketbooks, because that's always an issue for people. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep that's most important for anyone who's paying taxes in the United States.